Welcome to Verbal Peak Radio, where we give you a verbal image of life, and we are everyday people. I'd like to welcome you all to the show. Now, today's show, we're going to get to underlying factors of racism, not what you see on television, such as the Andrew Brown shooting, which they said that it was justified. We want to show you how to deal with these things and what's really taking place, right? Now, why are we sending Israel $4 billion a year? Reason why I asked that question is because ABC is doing a special on Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street, the bombing. They decimated Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma in the early 20s. Decimated them, right? Killed men, women, and children. Set generations back and refused to give them reparations. Now, one of the officials in Oklahoma stated, well, why should white people be punished for what their ancestors did by making them give money to black people? He said that would be a punishment. So, well, why would black, brown, red, yellow, white be punished by sending $4 billion of their earned dollars a year to Israel? Why don't we give $1 billion? I take that back. Let's split it. Why don't we send $2 billion to Israel and $2 billion to pay reparations to black people here in America who built this country, sweat equity, blood, sweat, and tears, who didn't volunteer to come over here and work for free, who was kidnapped and stolen and brought to this country, right? One to build, to plant Egyptian cotton, because the Europeans was over there and saw what they were wearing. They wanted to duplicate it over here in the Americas, right? To build structure, architecture, engineering, because the Europeans didn't know anything about that. Look at the mosques and the Moors and things that was built in Spain, right? And compare that to, and look at what the Moors built in Europe. Compare that to what white folks built in Europe at the time, right? Blacks was far advanced. So why not split it, right? Now we want to get into this, right? Because I want to show you all how to deal with, or how they deal with it, and just want to shape a mindset, right? Now, I'm going to read a story to you guys, right, that took place in Virginia, right? And the basis of the story is a white officer in the military, well, a retired officer in the military, walks into a military store. Black clerk is there, and there's some more black military personnel that's in the store shopping. He walks in the store, and the black clerk, she says, "Good morning." He says, would it be a good morning if I called you a nigger, right? And let me read the story. Appeals court overturns retired Air Force officer's conviction in a racial slur case, right? Now, he's an officer. How did he even survive that long in the military by being a racist, which anybody who's been in the military knows that there's racism in the military. Richmond, Virginia. The conviction of a retired U.S. Air Force officer who used a racial slur while speaking to a black store clerk and black customers was overturned Tuesday by a federal appeals court that found his speech was protected by the First Amendment under these circumstances. Under the circumstances? We'll get to that. Retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Jules Bartow, who is white, was arrested after he used the nigger slur while shopping for boots at the Quantico Marine Corps Exchange in November 2018. Prosecutors and witnesses at his trial said he posed several bizarre rhetorical questions, including asking the customers while referring to the store clerk, "If I called her a nigger, would she still say good morning?" Bartow was convicted of violating Virginia's abusive language law, right? That language is abusive. They keep going. Bartow's conviction was overturned by a 3-judge panel of the 4th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. The court found that the First Amendment permits criminalization of abusive language. but only if the government proves the language had a direct tendency to cause immediate acts of violence by the person to whom it was addressed. So what they're saying is, it's okay if he says nigger, as long as he don't say it in a way that would cause violence, right? It has nothing to do with whether he hurt her feelings or if they found it offensive, right? Using a derogatory word such as that. All it doesn't matter. Only thing they said was, by him using the term nigger in the question form, it was okay. Now we getting down to understanding how the system really works, right? Because we're so emotional till we don't even know how to have proper response to racists, right? Now let me give you an example of how it should have took place, right? White guy walks into a store, right? Black clerk says, hey, how you doing? Good morning. Would it be such a good morning if I called you nigger? And then her response should have been, well, I don't know. I think, or would it be still a good morning for me if all white people were wiped off the planet Earth? I wonder, would that make all my mornings good? Right? You gotta fight fire with fire. You can't go, oh, he called me a nigger. Wait, did he call me a nigger? What? Because he already knew the game. I'm putting this in a question form, right? So I'm not directly calling you a nigger. See, that's the trick. That's the getting your goat. That's the trickster, the sneakster, right? They know how to play the word games, and then they know how it will be protected in the court of law, because he can go in there and say, well, I didn't call her a nigger. I put that in the question form. The ugly racial epithet used by Bartow undoubtedly constituted extremely abusive language, but because the government failed to prove or even to offer evidence that Bartow's use of this highly offensive slur tended to cause immediate acts of violence by anyone, his conviction cannot stand, Judge Diana Gribben-Motz wrote in the unanimous ruling. Right? See, the government, of course not. The government would never make that point on a question form, because in their eyes that would give black folks too much power. Right? See, you're going to see a lot of new rules being brought into play, right? Because they want to protect white people's feelings first. It's not about black feelings or brown feelings or Asian feelings or whatever. You know, it ain't. You know, they'll throw Asians to get a no discrimination against Asian, whatever, just simply because Asians are leading the way in for economics in America, and they want that dollar, right? But if they can get away with it, right, and not have to spend any money, they wouldn't give a damn about the Asians either, right? In America, from what we've seen, okay, let me prove it. No reparations. Police brutality been going on against black people since the start of policing in America, right? The wealth gap always existed. The knowledge gap always existed. What's the root behind it? Well, it was how many years hundreds of years blacks wasn't allowed to read and write in this country, right? No, the identity stole, religion stole from black people. And then when the after effects of all of that corrupt legislature rears its ugly head, then white people, and I'm not talking all white people, but y'all know what I mean. I said the colonizer. The colonizer knows how to reflect and deflect questions. He knows how to pivot and say, "Well, I didn't do it. I wasn't there." Yeah, but you benefiting from white privilege due to slave labor. Like this Bartow. Well, I didn't call her a nigger. I asked her a question using the word nigger. See, and the government was like, "Okay," and they like, "Well, hey man, nothing to see here. We're not gonna convict a white man for asking a question with the word nigga in, even though it may be abusive and offensive. But come on, I can't, because it's about white privilege, right? I can't rule to denounce or take away white privilege. You take away white privilege, what else do we got? Wow. The court noted that the store clerk testified that after she greeted Bartow and asked if she could help him, he responded by raising his voice and saying, "If I had indigestion, diarrhea, or a headache, would you still address me as good morning?" Bartow drew attention from other customers in the store, including a black man in civilian clothes. The clerk testified that the customer explained to Bartow that employees at the exchange greeting customers with "sir" or "ma'am" because they are buying merchandise on a military installation. She said Bartow, who continued trying on boots, then said, "If I called her a nigger, would she still say good morning?" A store security officer testified that when she got to the area, she observed a heated conversation between Bartow and the white lieutenant colonel, who was very animated and pointed his finger at Bartow. The officer said she escorted Bartow out of the store, and he was arrested by base security officers. Right now, show you how crazy this is. He used an abusive racial slur, which caused a heated argument, damn near on the brink of violence, but yet they said that by him asking it in the question form, it wasn't intended to spark violence. This is what we're dealing with. So what we have to do is use their own game against them. Right? Walk in the store, they say good morning. Would it be a good morning if white people wasn't here? Their birth rates just continued to drop until the point that white folk disappeared from America? Right? Yeah, it'd be a good morning. In a question form, though. On appeal, a U.S. District Court judge upheld the conviction. The court did not discuss who Bartow directed the epithet at, but seemed to rely on the apparent friction between the white lieutenant colonel and Bartow as a basis for concluding that Bartow's use of the racial slur elicited an impending breach of the peace, the Fourth Circuit panel said in its ruling. Now, so by him directing it towards the store clerk, which was the catalyst for the whole thing taking place, she by her initiating by saying good morning. Then by her telling this idiot good morning, all of a sudden he has response of rhetoric that continues on till he used the N-word. But yet, it's not abusive language. Although it caused all this commotion, even having him arrested. The point I'm making is, the trick is in the language as well. And you have to pay attention and listen to language. They showing you how they get away with the way that they use language, and this case is already documented, so you can reference this case when you use language, derogatory language, against them. Now, some saying, well, you can't fight fire with fire, and why would I stoop to his level, and so forth. Well, because sometimes you have to do that in order for it to be recorded in the case, so it can be referred to, right? And especially in dealing within this law, right? You have to put it on record, right? Because that's how it works. It don't work as they showing you. It don't work with your emotions or how you think or how you feel. That doesn't work in this system, in their system. Now, if we had our own system and back with our own tribe and how we did things, then we could take that into consideration because it's ours. But since they took what the Moors had and now they running it, these are the laws that they saying, and this is how it works. So your feelings, your emotions, and what you think don't mean squat in their courts. Okay. All right. The Fourth Circuit noted that the U.S. Supreme Court has held that there are a few types of narrowly defined speech that can be restricted consistent with the First Amendment, including fighting words. But the Supreme Court has repeatedly stated that where the speech constitutes fighting words must be analyzed on a case-by-case basis, and courts must consider the circumstances surrounding such expression, the Fourth Circuit Court wrote. Meaning, they got to sit back and think, damn, what kind of precedent would this set if I convict this white man for using the N-word in the question? How would that backlash come about from our white families? And who are we here first for? The white citizens of America? Right? Or the minorities, or what they deem minorities? Right? Who gets the bread and who gets the crumbs? Over the decades, the court has repeatedly determined that the First Amendment places considerable limits on the criminalization of speech. We must abide those limits, even if that means, as it does here, that shameful speech escapes criminal sanction. Because what they're saying is, man, we can't lock up white. If we locked up every white person that used the N-word, hell, the jails would be overflowed. Federal Public Defender Jeremy Kamens declined to comment on the ruling. The U.S. Attorney's Office did not respond to a request for comment. Jonathan Turley, a law professor at George Washington University, praised the ruling because the alternative is for courts to proceed down the slippery slope of speech that is unprotected because it is offensive to one or many groups. And this goes back to 3/5 of a being. I don't even see you human enough to even have feelings to be offended. Most of us agree that what was said in the store was deeply offensive and disgraceful, but the First Amendment is designed to protect unpopular speech, he said. It often means that as free speech advocates, we are forced to defend the speech of people who engage in obnoxious and deeply upsetting language. Wow. So, black folk, you got to come up with some words that are just offensive as the N-word. You can say Yakub's grafted devil. You can say robot. You can say not created by man. You can say, so many things. And you're not saying them to be vicious or malicious. You're saying them because you are in the game. And they created the game board. And if you're going to be in this system and you're not separating and creating your own system, then you're going to have to play the game, not to get them to see how offensive their language are towards you, and maybe they would stop. Nah, that's not what it's about. You leveling the playing field to see who has the best wits. And look, black folk, we play the dozen, we rank on each other all the time. It's nothing for us to come off the top of the dome with something that shuts somebody's down. Look at the comedians do it all the time. You could be in the crowd, man, heckle a comedian. He come off the top of the dome, tear you up, make you want to leave the arena, right? Same thing. But we freeze. It's just a reflection of us freezing or fear. He come in, hey, good morning. Would it be a good morning if I called you a nigga? Man. And then I think it'd be a good morning if you disappeared and we didn't have to see you anymore. I think it'd be a good morning if you all got up and went back to Europe. Right? Would it be a good morning for you if I call you grafted, not made by the Creator? Right? I mean, it's just so many things, but and I'm gonna stop saying this, but it's true though, man. But I'm gonna stop getting involved in it, right? Some of that stuff that was taught in the Christian church taught black folks to be passive beyond the need to be passive. Passive to the point of no return. Passive to the point to where you just became a passive rug and you walked on, stepped on every day. Too damn passive. God, on looking at it from white people's point of view, I bet white folks saying, damn, we didn't think this was going to work this good. I mean, we just totally treating them as non-human. And they so passive, they locking arms and singing Amazing Grace. It's like, they like, what the hell? Right? Hey, I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. You know, but look, film's getting ready to come out. We'll keep y'all abreast of that. This is Everyday People, so we're allowed to talk about subjects such as this because this is leveling the playing field, because we don't see no man on this planet above us, greater than us, or superior to us. Right here on Verbal Pick Radio. We out.